What's up, fam? It's your boy Charles Smith, and man, this situation just keeps getting worse for Pooh Shiesty. If you missed my last video, make sure you go check that out first because we already broke down the major developments. But now the feds have reportedly recovered what they're calling the robbery video involving Pooh Shiesty and Gucci Mane. According to prosecutors, the footage allegedly shows Gucci Mane being pressured into saying on camera that Pooh Shiesty had been released from 1017. That's what the government is claiming. And if that video is exactly what they say it is, it could become one of the biggest pieces of evidence in this entire case. The reason this is such a big deal is because Pooh Shiesty's legal team has been arguing that the government didn't really have much evidence. They claim there was no video, no jewelry, no contract, and nothing substantial tying everything together. But things change fast. On June 11th, Pooh Shiesty filed a motion asking the court to reconsider his detention and release him under a new set of conditions while the case moves forward. Then, just 11 days later, the US government fired back with a massive 25-page response asking the judge to deny that request completely. According to prosecutors, they've gathered even more evidence since the original filing, and they believe it strongly supports keeping Pooh Shiesty behind bars. Like I told you guys in the last video, the feds continue to argue that Pooh Shiesty poses a danger to the community, and if the judge agrees with that argument, it's going to be extremely difficult for his attorneys to convince the court that he should be released before trial. This case is definitely heating up, and I'll keep you guys updated as more information comes out.
New this morning, the federal government says rapper Pooh Shiesty is simply too dangerous to be out on bond. The rapper's real name is Lontrell Williams Jr. He is asking to be released on bond ahead of his trial. And you may remember he and 8 other men, including his father, are accused in the January robbing and kidnapping of his record label owner Gucci Mane. The other defendants, including Shiesty's father and rapper Big 30, they're already out on bond. But here's this new filing. Prosecutors argue Shiesty should not be allowed out under any circumstances. They say no condition of release can protect the community or witnesses against Williams Jr. from the danger he poses. It goes on to say the danger here is concrete. Williams Jr. himself has shot at least 2 people. He leads a Memphis street gang of about 100 members.
That's why the feds ended up releasing those robbery photos we've been looking at. But the pictures weren't the only evidence. According to the government's filing, investigators also have text message records, victim impact statements connected to the robbery, and documentation alleging that Pooh Shiesty violated previous bond conditions. Now, a lot of people might be wondering, who actually wrote the victim impact statement? Was it Gucci Mane himself? The answer is no. It was written by Gucci Mane's security guard, the off-duty police officer who accompanied Gucci to that meeting. And now that same officer has submitted a letter to the judge asking that Pooh Shiesty remain behind bars because he fears for his own safety and the safety of his family. The statement was signed by someone identified as CW. In the letter, CW explains that he was one of the victims who survived the January 10th, 2026 incident. He thanks the court for allowing him to share his concerns before the judge rules on whether Lontrell Williams Jr. should be granted bond. He says he strongly believes Pooh Shiesty should remain in custody because releasing him would put both him and his family at risk. CW also points out that Pooh Shiesty allegedly knew he was a retired police officer, yet that didn't stop the events from taking place. Because of that, he says he's deeply concerned about what could happen if Pooh Shiesty is released before trial. He goes on to explain that out of everyone involved in the case, he's the only victim still living in Texas, making him especially worried that he or his family could become targets if bond is granted. Now, that's a serious statement. The officer continues by saying that these allegations show a complete disregard for the safety of others. He also reminds the judge that the alleged robbery happened while Pooh Shiesty was already on court-supervised release, raising concerns about what could happen if he's given another opportunity outside of custody. According to the letter, Pooh Shiesty had already been given another chance through bond and monitoring conditions, but prosecutors now accuse him of committing another violent crime while still under those restrictions, one that allegedly resulted in someone being shot. The officer says both he and his wife are genuinely afraid of what could happen if Pooh Shiesty is released. He explains that ever since the incident, he's constantly watching every unfamiliar vehicle that passes by his house because he fears someone connected to the case could come after him or his family. He even says the fear has affected his children, limiting their ability to simply go outside and enjoy normal childhood activities. The letter closes by asking the judge to consider the safety of his entire family and arguing that keeping Pooh Shiesty detained is necessary to prevent any further harm. After reading all of that, it's easy to understand why prosecutors included this statement in their response. From a judge's perspective, that's the kind of testimony that's designed to show ongoing fear from an alleged victim. Not just what happened that day, but the impact it's still having months later. The officer is basically telling the court that his family doesn't feel safe anymore, that they're living in constant fear, and that they believe releasing Pooh Shiesty would only make things worse. Another thing to keep in mind is that the judge has already released 2 other people connected to this case, Big 30 and Pooh Shiesty's father. So even if Pooh Shiesty himself remains in custody, some could argue there's still concern about possible retaliation from others allegedly connected to the situation. A lot of people were surprised that Gucci Mane's security guard decided to submit a statement like this. Personally, it's not that surprising, especially after Gucci Mane released the diss track Crash Dummy, where he appeared to reference and describe details related to the alleged robbery. At that point, it became clear this situation had escalated far beyond a private business dispute. If this case eventually goes to trial and Gucci Mane is called to testify, it wouldn't be shocking if he cooperates with prosecutors. After all, according to the allegations, Gucci believed he was going to a business meeting, but instead found himself in an extremely dangerous situation. Some reports even claim that if Gucci hadn't told his security guard to stand down, the encounter could have turned into a deadly shootout inside the studio. If that had happened, the off-duty officer might not have made it home to his family, and depending on how events unfolded, Gucci Mane himself could have been in serious danger as well. Based on what's been alleged in court, investigators believe this wasn't a situation anyone should have taken lightly. So from the officer's point of view, if the court gives him an opportunity to explain why he believes Pooh Shiesty shouldn't be released, it's understandable why he'd take that opportunity. At the same time, people have raised other questions. Some ask why the officer and his family don't simply relocate if they're truly afraid. Others wonder whether Gucci Mane could help move them to another city or even another state for their safety. Those are fair questions, but ultimately, the officer's letter makes one thing clear. His number one concern is protecting his family, and he believes keeping Pooh Shiesty in custody is the safest outcome while this case continues through the courts.